This segment is brought to you in part by the Canadian Historical Arms Society, owners of the Genesee Range, the premier recreational sport and training facility in Western Canada. See us online at historical-arms.com.
The Quiet Professional, a podcast about law enforcement, security, justice, and politics. We are digging deeper on the issues and going where the information takes us with access to experts and authorities. Welcome to The Quiet Professional. Hey everybody, welcome back to The Quiet Professional. Today we're going to be talking about building out some realistic training for military and law enforcement applications and a couple other projects that my guest has on the go. We'll kind of get to the thread that ties it all together as we go along. You'll pick up on it. My guest today is Tim Pearce. He is retired Los Angeles Police gang officer, now CEO and founder of A.U.Fire, stands for Accuracy Under Fire, the world's first injury training system. Tim also produced the documentary Nothing to See Here, Watts. That's in all caps. This shows how the Watts community reduced homicides by 90%. The cool part about this, the film was shot on iPhones by community members, and it included gang members, police, victims, and local youth, offering first-person perspectives. Very cool stuff. Welcome, Tim.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for having me on. I appreciate it. Happy to be here.
Yeah, I'm glad to get you in. We were saying just before we kind of started up the recording, I give a shout out to one of your partners there, Jim Ramos, for looking up the show. I did want to give him a shout out because everybody spells my name incorrectly, and it's Romus. It's just flipping the A and the O. And there's like 5 Romuses on this planet. And somehow everybody thinks I'm Ramos. So, I'll give him a little shout out because everybody spells my name his way. So,
yeah, Jim Ramos is awesome. He's my right-hand man in my company, Accuracy Under Fire. And he's just been a godsend. He's just such a hard worker and just knows everybody in the business and been opening doors like crazy and gets along with everybody. And he's just been exactly what I needed as a, brand new entrepreneur trying to bring a product to market. We'll go through all that stuff, but it's just, you need somebody that kind of a pathfinder for you, a cop trying to become an entrepreneur, is, I thought police work was hard.
Yeah.
Especially in Watts.
Yeah.
That's nothing compared to being an entrepreneur. So,
your job now might be a little bit safer. I'll say that much.
yeah. Not financially safer.
Yeah. Guess the perspective.
But it is. It's it's great to have some purpose outside the job. To roll right into that and then to stay connected to law enforcement and then especially to be doing something that's going to save lives. It really feels good, to be connected like that and to still be helping because that's what we get into business for is right to help.
Yeah. And you know what, when I was doing the intro here and I mentioned we're looking at training for military law enforcement, I mean, I didn't see any videos specifically that I can recall where your product is being used in the military, but 100% I could see it going that way. There's no way it won't end up there.
So. Yeah, we've got all kinds of irons in the fire with the military right now.
Okay.
And I've trained PJs in Tucson, parajumpers. A lot of ambush training type stuff. So, and West Point is going to be picking up our system, which I can talk about. And then we just brought on a retired 3-star general, Eric Wesley, who he used to command Fort Benning. He led the Baghdad invasion. He helped stand up the Army Futures Command, and the guy's just been amazing. So, and he's a true believer in the product and has been opening doors. We just demoed for the 3-star general in charge of training for the Army.
Okay.
And he was absolutely saw where the gap that we're exposing and now fill it, right?
Yeah.
So, and we can talk about that gap. It's, it's overlooked because there's just been no way to do what we're doing. So,
yeah. Well, we'll start getting into it. And I will kind of start off just by mentioning the Mike Rowe podcast. You were on that. Was it exactly a year ago, or was it December 2024?
I think it was December, yeah.
December.
Yeah, close to a year.
I'll put up the link for that so people can go watch that because you do an excellent job of retelling like your whole story in there. You guys have a great discussion. So I want to make sure that people get to see that, just so it kind of saves us a little bit of time today because I do
Sure.
want to get onto the Watts thing as well. But
Yeah.
no, but if you could run us through some of your backstory and how you got into creating this product.
Yeah, so I, I used to work construction in Los Angeles, and then decided to become a cop when I was 27, and got hired by LAPD. I'm not even the type of guy that I don't even like conflict, like
Mm,
it's the last job on earth I ever thought I would do, but I needed a career and I needed, all the things that come with that kind of a job. And so I got hired, and then I quickly realized that gangsters were like the cancer of the city.
mm,
And I didn't want to really deal with everyday normal people because I didn't want to be judge and jury in between everyday normal people's lives, right?
yeah.
But the gang thing, and it fit me really well. And so I got involved in that, had a great partner in patrol. We got pulled into the crash units together in Southwest Division, and that's where we got exposed to the gang world and just stuck with it from that was the 99 on. And my female partner I had, she was Christina Rapati, was phenomenal officer, just top notch, male or female. She was unique, so it's very special, and we became best friends. Being partners in patrol and then gangs for like 3 years, became best friends. Eventually, started dating, and then eventually got married. And we got married, and we had a little girl, and we had 10 years on the job at that point. My daughter was like 16 months old, and I'm working down at this point. I've transferred down to Watts, and I'm in the Watts uh, gang unit there,
Okay.
LAPD Southeast Division, and Christina's still working up in Southwest Division, the Crenshaw district, just
Mm,
west of USD, all that. And one night she's working, and I'm working down in Watts. She's working up there. She sees a guy about 10 o'clock at night, duck behind a car, like he's doing something suspicious. Her and her partner keying on it. They pull over real quick. She hops out as passenger, confronts the guy on the sidewalk. Hey, come here, let me talk to you. Boom, he takes off running. She's chasing him. It's her third foot pursuit of the night. She chased two Crips earlier and two different foot pursuits earlier. And she's chasing a guy, doesn't see a gun in his hands while he's running. He cuts across the lawn, runs up a porch, and tries to get in a door. And down there, these guys will go in anybody's house. And it
mhm,
just gets super complicated at that point. So she catches him at the door, grabs him by the shoulders, going to try to rip him to the ground, cuff him, figure out why he's running. And right when she grabs him, he spins and stuffs a pistol up under her armpit and shoots her right in the crease of the armpit above the vest, and that bullet hits her high in the neck in the spinal cord
mhm,
and instantly paralyzes her from the chest down. And she drops on and hits the deck on the porch, and the guy stands over and shoots at her three more times, hitting her twice in the arm. At the same time, her partner has stopped on the grass and is shooting at the suspect as the suspect shooting Christina on the deck.
mm,
And luckily, her partner hits him twice, puts one through his aorta. Guy drops dead next to Christina. Two SWAT officers get there. They had just cross trained as medics. They just graduated their medic class 2 days earlier. They start working on her. A bunch of other officers get there. I get there right when the paramedics get there. And, she's sheet white, thick, syrupy blood from under her back, down 4 steps and out on the walkway. And she's eyes are just locked and fixed, no blue in her eyes, completely in shock, and she lost a lot of blood. So she survives. We get her into trauma. She survives, paralyzed from the chest down permanently. And in the following years, we were doing a lot of physical therapy on her. And in that physical therapy, we were using a lot of TENS units, those sticky electrodes you put on your
Yep.
muscles and then it contracts your muscles. So we were doing a lot of that to fight off muscle atrophy in her lower body. And someone gave me a TENS unit to take home. So I it was just an over-the-counter TENS unit you could buy on Amazon, in a
Yeah.
little box, 4 electrodes. So I put them on my bicep, and I was just flicking dials, trying to figure out how to use it. I certainly wasn't gonna read the instructions like I can't. So I'm flicking dials, and all of a sudden I kicked it on full blast on accident. So it fully contracted my bicep, and it kinda held me there in a chicken wing for, a few seconds, and then it turned off and let go. And I was like, "Wow, that was intense." And I remembered a cop telling me when he got shot in the shoulder, and he said that it was like getting hit with a baseball bat, like huge impact, the burn, the incapacitation, the fear, the confusion,
Yep.
right? And I thought, man, this TENS unit, when it lit me up, it was immediate, it was totally disabling, totally distracting, totally
Mm.
out of my control. That has got to be so similar to what it must be like to get shot. And I also remembered back to the academy in '96, and I remembered our SWAT guys telling us, "You've got to practice with your offhand, blah blah blah." For all the reasons we do that. And I remember him saying, "Yeah, we'll even handcuff our hand behind our back to simulate we've been shot, and we'll do all our one-handed manipulations." And I'm sitting there as a construction worker trying to become a cop, and in the academy class, listening to the SWAT guy, looking at him. I remember thinking, "Wow, that's what LAPD SWAT does? They handcuff their hand behind their back? Like, that's
Yeah.
archaic. That
Yeah.
is so
So
ridiculous
basic.
because."
Yeah.
Yeah, I just figured they would have something more sophisticated than that. And so, at this point, when I lit myself up with this TENS unit, I've now got about 12 years on the job. So I'm thinking about all this and I go, let me call someone, my buddies who are in SWAT now. So I call up Jen Grasso, and she was the first LAPD female SWAT member, and she's amazing, just an amazing person, amazing officer, just all the way around. I call her up. I'm like, Jen, hey, how do you simulate you've been hit by gunfire in training? She goes, oh, we got this pipe we put over our arm. Oh, we got this glove we duct tape. I'm like, okay, nothing's changed since '96, and
Wow.
nothing existed before that. So down the rabbit hole I go. I end up hiring an engineer, and we take these TENS units, and then I modified a climbing harness, and now I have wires all over. But we made a remote and made it work. And so now I had this provable concept.
Hmm.
And then I got introduced to a guy from SEAL Team 6, Dom Rosso, who was the team leader. And he was like their gadget guy too, super creative. And I got introduced to him. So I tried it on him. And he's like, dude, I love this thing. Like, I wish I had this when I was on the teams. He had just retired a few years earlier. And he goes, man, you got to turn this into a garment. So I already knew. And so I ended up through contacts, found two freelancers who work for North Face clothing designers.
Oh, okay.
And so they showed me how to put it into put conductive fabrics and bond them into these neoprene sleeves, the way the system is now.
Hmm.
And so now you pull these sleeves on, you throw a little backpack on, instructor's got a remote, and say you're wearing it. I go, hey, go walk up to that car, go search that building, go stand in front of this video simulator. And at any point when you start getting shot at, I can hit a button and lock your arm down in full muscle contraction, right? And
Yeah.
now you're forced to fight back in real time, in under real duress, and problem solve in real time, because the gunfight, just because you got hit, right? That first round that hits you is bad. It's the 12 or 20 rounds coming after that that are really bad.
Yeah.
And you don't have time to sit there and go, oh my God, it's happened. I've been hit. Like, you don't have time for that kind of panic. You
Mm.
have to be recovering and returning fire as fast as possible. And not only returning fire accurately and effectively, right?
Yeah, that's a good point.
offhand while you got
Hmm.
a hole in you. Well, the boogeyman got you and you're bleeding out and you're still under attack. This
Yeah.
There's only two kinds of shooters in the world, right? The kind that shoot at you, I don't know what that, the kind that shoot at you and run and bed down and hide or whatever, or the kind that shoot at you and stay in it to kill you.
Hmm.
And at that point, you're hit. You have to fight back or you're done. And so we shouldn't be figuring that out on the street when it happens for the first time in real life.
Yeah.
And handcuffing your hand behind your back does not prepare you for that.
It makes me think of some of the training now when, like, if I compare it to when I went through. So I initially started with the Royal Canadian Mounted Police. So that was in 2011. And then I came to the Edmonton Police Service, so municipal service, in 2013. With the RCMP, we had something called rings. So you actually would like strap on gloves and you would get in a fight with someone from your class. And they kind of would pair you
Yeah.
up with someone roughly your size, roughly your skill level if you had some background and stuff. But like you were getting decked. And then we had
Yeah.
one where it was ground fighting. I've never seen something like that since. Didn't have it with the municipal service. And certainly now, I know there's people who can come out of class and it's like, I've never been punched in my life.
Yeah.
And I always thought that was crazy. I was like, the time to learn what it's like to just get a punch is not
Yeah.
in the middle of the fight for your life. So,
Yeah.
talk about being shot or something serious like getting stabbed. Uh, you
Yeah.
know, how close can we make it to the real thing? Obviously, without
Yeah.
killing anybody, but we need to simulate training better, or
Yeah.
as close to the real thing as possible. The only thing I can think of that we've ever used up here, we have simunitions, which they hurt when you're not under stress. But when you're under stress, there's a lot of time you don't even feel that. Like it could hit
Yeah.
you on the bare skin. But if you're stressed out, like you actually might not notice it.
Yeah.
And we did have stress vests for a while. I don't know what happened to them, but we had them for a little bit. And I just remember when we were using them, they didn't turn up. Couldn't like crank up the power enough, I think it was. So
Yep.
again, under extreme stress, depending on the scenarios we were running, you might not actually even feel it. So, that's some of the issues we've run into. There's people out there like trying different things, which is great, excellent. But yeah, I think you're the most advanced, the most on to something here.
The stress vest, Setcan stress vest is a great product.
Hmm.
Those guys, I know those guys, and they're awesome guys, and I like their product. We're a little bit different, and is theirs is a force on force training product. They have a lot of products. They've been in it at it
Yeah.
for a long time. Um, but theirs is like a bite, right? It's like a ouch, ouch, I'm
Yeah.
getting hit. I could move to cover, right? Where mine is muscle contraction, you lose the limb. And we'll probably at one point end up merging our products. We'll come up with some kind of agreement where they can use AU.Fire sleeves with their system.
Yeah.
I want them. They're super nice guys, and I want to work with them.
Yeah.
And vice versa. But I'm so new, it's like that'll come in time. But I think you're right. It doesn't. They're just you can't. There's been no way to practice this really, and people should not be experiencing this for the first time in real life. Like we're all bluffing out there,
Yeah.
right? Because look, we're all 1 degree separated from being a school teacher, a FedEx driver, an accountant, right? We're not any different than those guys. We
Yeah.
just took 7 months of training and they put a gun on us and sent us out in the street, right? So
It is pretty crazy though. Like people think all of a sudden you got some
totally,
superpowers and you're like, no, it's
no, just a
I
dude.
was this yesterday.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But we have to convince ourselves that we can do it, and we're all living a fantasy and a bluff until it happens. Like when I got my first shooting, I was almost got my head taken off. A guy 12, 14 feet from me. We confronted each other. He popped out with a shotgun, and we shot at each other simultaneously at the same time. And his shotgun load came right past my face, and I got hit in the face with all the wadding, all the gunpowder, all that
Oh,
stuff, right? And that forced me, I mashed the trigger. Instead of hitting him in the chest, I hit him in the top of the thigh and split his femur. But, and they actually came out with, our scientific investigation team came out with clear 3-inch tape and collected gunpowder off of my face and forehead and when I
mhm.
had hair and stuff. And, but I remember talking to my sergeant. It's like 2 in the morning. I'm standing on the lawn, and I'm looking at the ground as he's talking to me. And he goes, "Dude, how are you so calm? You almost got your head taken off." And I remember looking at him thinking, like, I don't care about that at all. The only thing I cared about was, thank God I'm not that guy who thought he was a tough guy. And when it was go time, he froze,
Yeah.
right? I was just so relieved that I'm a aggressive guy, super proactive, got a ton of life experience before I got on the job. And I was, but I still had that big question mark in my head. And so if I had a big question mark in my head, I know everybody else that I know, all my classmates, they had a bigger one.
Mm.
And so that was finally answered. And so AU.Fire, my product, can get you there in training so that you know that when you get hit, you can actually fight back accurately and effectively. And it happens right away. Like it'll mess you up the very first time. He'll throw a wrench in your spokes, but you will instantly get better on every single rep. And then pretty soon you realize, yeah, I can separate this in my head. I can separate, we call it distraction by contraction. I can
Mhm.
separate this injury and I can focus on what needs to happen right now. And that is a massive advantage for when it happens in real life that you've been through it already. And it just puts this confidence nugget in your head and it tells you it's not a zero sum game because we have to come to the street with this mentality that it is a zero sum game. Don't get shot because I've never been shot before. Just don't get shot because you're done if that happens.
Yeah.
And a lot of our training supports that. And that's just not true. You get hit in the dome, you're probably done. You get hit in the body armor, there's a good chance you're going to survive. You get hit in the arms and legs, you can still fight
Yeah.
actively. So, but we have to give officers that chance to practice that, and and we have to give them reps in overriding that self-preservation instinct that's so powerful. And that you get that by training with this. So, look, it started off as a good idea. And then honestly, it just became a great distraction for a while, working on something positive, keeping me home. And, especially in given our family tragedy situation and young kids and everything. And then once I made it real, and then I knew it was a good idea, or I thought it was a good idea, but I also thought I was too close to it. And so getting it out in the world, now I've had thousands of people run through it and the feedback, now I'm 100% confident this absolutely will save lives. And I believe it's going to become very normalized. And my goal is to make it consequences mandatory
Yeah.
in especially active shooter response training, because in my opinion, most cops are not ready for that mentally,
Yeah.
right?
There's so many scenarios that this would be applicable to. Do you,
Yeah.
is it just sleeves for arms right now? Or do you have legs? Do you have torso? Like, can you do something with the body?
Currently, it's just arms. I had to get to market with something. Next, we'll come out with a belly wrap, like a cummerbund. So, and the buttons are on the remote already. It's all ready to go. I just have to make the garment. But right now, it's just arms. And I'll make a Gen 2. I'm looking to get military funding and VC funding so that I can build a Gen 2. It'll be very expensive, but it'll be very sophisticated. And that we will be full body. It'll be calves, abs, and arms,
Oh,
all
man.
kinds of pre-programmable stuff. We can do mass casualty stuff.
Yeah.
If I hit you in the calf, it's going to point your toe, and you're going to have literally like a wooden peg leg. And as you're limping and trying to get the cover and returning fire, right? Because we're training for the shooter who has shot you and is trying to kill you. He's not running away. So you're going to be returning fire as you're limping and running to cover, and your gun is going to be scalloping like this as you're limping. And in the heat of battle, you're not going to realize, like, why can't I hit this guy? Because you're not going to realize that your gun is scalloping because you're limping. Too much going on. But if you're practicing it, you can fully understand that, and then you can fully compensate for it. So
Okay.
I see that. Yeah.
Have you been able to get anybody who has been shot to put this on and compare it?
Yeah. A bunch.
Yeah, what's their thoughts? What do they say? Is it as close as you can get so far?
Oh, people aren't going to like this, but they're going to like it. I've had three of them, four of them told me that it was worse than when they got shot.
Oh, really?
And I was blown away by that because look, this thing's only 66 volts.
Mm,
A taser is 50,000 volts, right?
yeah.
This is 66 volts going from here to make that muscle contract, right? Or here or here. And but what they said is, like, one guy, he was in Afghanistan and he was getting dumped on by, some enemy, and he got hit. He's running for a pile of rocks to hide behind. He gets hit in the leg, rifle round, and as he's running, he knows he's been hit. He said he couldn't feel any pain. He could feel the wetness of all the blood, and he knew his leg wasn't working. He was just like running, with an extreme limp, and then dove behind these rocks, and eventually got saved by the helicopter. And he said it was like 20 minutes later when all the pain came rushing in. So
Okay.
what each of them has said is, yeah, I had so much adrenaline that when I got hit, I knew I had the limb problem, but I didn't feel the pain. And they go, with AU.FIRE, you feel it and you have the limb problem. So one guy even said, he goes, this almost overtrains you for this scenario. And I was like, I was more blown away than anybody that he
Mm.
said that. I didn't know.
I would almost rather that though than it be a cakewalk and you're still not prepared for the
Yes.
reality of the scenario.
And 95%, if not more, people, when it nails them, it jolts them, it grabs their attention, right? But then I'll ask them, I go, is it painful? And they'll go, nah, it's not painful. It's uncomfortable, but it's weird. It's just I can feel my muscles pulsating, like,
Yeah.
but it's not painful. But there is nothing I can do with this arm, like, So,
Well,
um,
that's what I wondered because some of your videos, when you watch them, yeah, like people aren't shrieking in pain or nothing, but their arm is being affected. It's like, so is it painful? I was kind of wondering that before.
And it's like when if you run into me at a trade show and you want to try it, whatever, you're just standing there kind of waiting, and you're like, oh, here comes electricity, whatever. It's worse at that point. But when you're engaged in a scenario, you have some level of adrenaline, you're engaged, and you'll feel it. I can crank it up even more, and it's less intense. It fully limits your ability to use the arm, but
Yeah.
it's less intense than when you're just waiting for it.
Hmm. Hmm.
So, and,
Okay.
and it all plays into it. And you put it on somebody and you send them into a scenario, they are they are switched on. There are consequences. They are paying attention. They're like, okay, they're running through their head. All right, if I lose an arm, do I remember how to reload? Do I remember don't forget to rack my round, whatever. They're thinking all along, and there's like, when is it going to happen? Where's it going to happen? What are my options? So that's how you want somebody in training. I'm the worst case scenario of going to training and just going through the motions, right? I just want to get back on the street and go to work. Like, I didn't really like going to training, honestly, and so I remember many days where I was just like, okay, hut, going through
Yeah.
trying just to remember what I'm supposed to do, and trying to think, but no
This,
intensity about it, right?
yeah, this is a different dynamic. Um,
Yeah.
do you do any work with like private contractors? People might be retired or something, and they come back and train law enforcement. And I asked that because I'm thinking of like one of the guests I had on here, Chris Abisafi, and he runs Bishop One. They do some really cool stuff. Like it's some real dynamic tactics vehicle tactics, shooting around cars, shooting in cars. Um, I mean, they're really good dudes. And as soon as I saw your product, I was like, man, these guys, like, you guys be a wicked team up. So I'm wondering, do you, I guess you would do some work with these type of agencies?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah. I do a lot of work with Charles Joe. He runs Tricell USA training. He's one of our former SWAT guys. I think he did like 15 years on our SWAT team at LAPD. He's a sniper and he was a negotiator, diver, all that stuff. And just a wonderful guy, man. Just zero ego, just a super cool guy that loves to train and loves to train people. And so I do a lot of training with him and stuff. But and I've got some buddies around the country who've been running A.U.Fire in their trainings. And right now it's just a matter of getting it known. And some of these
Yeah.
guys, like, yeah, I'd love to connect with some of these guys that are really doing dynamic training and could add this to it. Because look, I was never a trainer, so I know the basics, right? I was a ghetto cop for a long time, a gang cop for a long time. So I know the basics and I know the mindset, probably more importantly. And then, but these great trainers are out here, they're going to think of things that I never thought of. They're going to come up with reps that I couldn't imagine. And when they start incorporating AU Fire, man, they're going to come out with some amazing training.
Hmm.
And, that's really going to impact people and help them and get them to trust themselves and get them to, lay down rounds fast and accurately in the worst case scenario. So,
Yeah, it's like you're trying to get to as complete a package as possible, right? And I mean, things obviously change in environment, and situations change, weapons could change, firearms could change in the future. Maybe we'll have to have something simulating lasers or something one day, but for now, I mean, we want to get it as close to the real thing as possible. I think this really does fill one of those gaps that is of critical importance.
one of the big things I notice is like give a guy a rifle and then have him get hit and then go dry, right?
Mm.
Maybe he's one-handing it with his rifle, staying in it, but then he goes dry.
Yeah.
And now he's got to get that rifle reloaded under duress. And everybody in the beginning, everybody just all their attention goes to the problem, the limb problem and the weapon problem, and they completely forget about what's out there in front of them. And I'm always yelling, he's moving, he's flanking
Hmm.
you, get your head up. You have to learn to do all this stuff blind because you cannot take your eyes off this guy who's in it to kill you, right?
Correct.
He's hit you. You're at a massive disadvantage at this point. Now he's trying to capitalize on you being injured, and especially if you got a weapon problem.
Hmm.
Like you may have to pick up your weapon in two pieces, magazine and empty weapon, and run, literally run, and try to figure out how to get this thing reloaded as you're running around a car. Like we've had guys that they couldn't do it. They're trying to put their gun back together on the ground one-handed, and they're getting rushed. And one guy said to me, he's like, well, I go, they got to get their heads up. And he's like, well, what good is it if they don't have a operating gun? And I'm like, because his only option might be to just grab the pieces and
And run.
freaking run for the
Yeah.
next piece of cover. Like so so it's going to open up people's eyes like crazy. Because this is really what it's about. This is what we're trying to avoid is getting shot. And when you get shot and you're under attack is the worst moment of your entire life and your entire career. So why wouldn't you focus on that and getting that dialed first, before the other stuff? So, anyways, I get passionate about it. Sorry.
No, you're good. I really think we anything we could do to make training better, and like I was saying, the complete package. Like, how do we get this so it's not just, and you were mentioning just running through the motions. We go to our 3-4 training days a year. Here you go. Here's a little bit of firearms training. Here's a little bit of tactics. But if I'm not doing that day in and day out, I'm not going to remember it. And it's just, yeah, it's just checkbox exercises. But how do we make it so it's more realistic, and people probably take a little more away from that training session? So, um, the I was going to mention here, just talking about where you worked. Were you in the Watts area, or because I'm not super familiar with Los Angeles, but
Yeah.
so Watts is where exactly in LA?
So so you can take South Central Los Angeles, and it would be the lower southeast corner of it, right?
Okay,
And so LAPD Southeast Division, um, the majority of it is about 5.5 square mile section, and then there's a long sliver that goes down alongside the freeway, and really nothing happens down there. So, but where all the violence and everything happens is in that 5 square miles, and then Watts is the an actual community that's at the east end of that, and it's a 2.1 square mile section, and in that section has of 4 major housing developments, and they're all within like within probably a quarter mile of each other, a mile to yeah, a quarter mile of each other, and they're like, there's Grape Street Crips and Jordan Downs housing projects, and Bounty Hunter Bloods and the Nickerson Gardens housing projects, and then the Imperial Courts is the PJ Crips, Project Crips, and they all war with each other. Now there's all this intermingled family between them, but for 50 years they've been warring with each other over all kinds of dramas, whatever it's, and and these gangs are huge, and they've been around forever. And then in the neighborhoods in between them, there's dozens of other sets and other gangs, and then there's Hispanic gangs in there. When I was running around there, I got there in 2001, and we were running typically about 80 murders a year. Most of that was on the east side of the division, in that two square miles. But
it's
that place
crazy.
is yeah, it's so unpredictable. On a if you're working a 4 day, week, 4 10s or something like that, you're going to be on a murder. Back then, you'd be on a murder almost every single shift, if not, every other day that you're working. Sometimes you're on a triple, and then you go to a single all in one night, and then, it's like, yeah, it would be Sunday morning, 8 a.m., and you 3 bodies down in an intersection. You're like, on Sunday morning, you got to be kidding me.
Yeah.
And the place doesn't look that bad, right? When you drive through it, it's um it's really not that bad. It's actually prime real estate, right? It's 15 minutes to LAX airport. It's 20 minutes to the beach. It's 20 minutes to downtown LA. It's at the intersection of the 105 freeway and the 110 freeway and the
Okay.
10 freeway. Like, all that is right there. Like, it should be golden real estate,
Yeah.
but it's just got this entrenchment and this culture. And unfortunately, there's a lot of really good people that live there, and they are prisoners in their houses, right? The gangs run.
Yeah, the amount of experience you have. So you're talking like 80 murders a year, and just the amount of gun crime that would be involved down there. You've been shot at, and then that just kind of speaks to what you're trying to do with your company with AU.Fire and the product that you're putting out. Like, I mean, yeah, you've been there, you've seen it, you've seen the death and the destruction. So, if you can help, all the power to you. So,
Oh yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, I wouldn't trade it for anything. It's the last thing on earth I ever thought I would end up doing, and especially, and honestly, when I got into LAPD, I said, put me in the worst possible place. If I can survive that, everything else is going to be gravy, you know?
yeah.
And then I just ended up like getting pigeonholed and gravitating towards this gang thing. And then next thing you know, you like get acclimated to it, and then you get good at it. And then you're just, it feels like time well spent as an officer, in my opinion.
Hmm.
Um, right? You're going to tackle the hardest problem and stuff. And you don't get paid anything extra. It's, so, but you do take on a lot of drama with that position. You're
Yeah.
button heads and all the time.
I could relate. Like, I just promoted back in January out of our gang suppression team up here, and man, I have my phone on 24/7, running informants. Nobody paid you extra.
Yeah,
You got
yeah,
nothing for that. But I have people
yeah,
call me 2, 3 in the morning if they're not talking about either killing themselves, like a lot
yeah,
of suicide, even among the hardest of gangsters. they're talking about someone waiting to kill them, or that they
Yep.
heard some other thing. So you got to spin up a team and try and get that info out. Like, but you get paid the same as the person who just shows up and punches in and punches out. So
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
difficult.
It's just some people are compelled to do that, you know? I mean, I always say the middle 80% in the department, the guys that are they're doing their job, they're doing everything they're supposed to do.
Mm.
And they're actually the smart ones, right? So
Yeah.
well, the ones that are the top 10% are compelled to just be proactive and run and push the envelope and hit the drama head on. Like we're crazy, like we're nuts to be doing that, but it fits, man. It feels right. It feels like we're doing the right thing. We know we're protecting people. You're just compelled to do it.
Well, that's right. So, with that experience, what kind of compelled you to do this project with Watts? Like, you got all this experience going on, but you're working in this area, tons of gun crime. I see how, with A.U.Fire, you're helping on the law enforcement, military side. But Watts is like, this is something real different. And it's not only is it helping the community from the videos I saw, you got some amazing stories in there, and people I would love to talk to, just to get their story out. But when they start talking about the interaction with police, and especially with the narratives that go on in the media, from BLM to George Floyd, all that stuff, and you joined in '96, just after Rodney King, that whole incident. So it's like, man, what kind of compelled you to do all this? That must have been tough.
Well, it's interesting. Yeah, you're right. Getting on after Rodney King, like people were telling me, I was telling people, "Hey, I think I'm going to be a police officer, this and that." And people were like, "Oh, dude, don't do that, man. That job's done." Even officers told me that. Older guys, they're like,
Mhm.
"Hey, this job's over, man. Like, you don't want to come on now. Like, this is going downhill bad." And I almost
People
listened.
say the same now.
Yeah, I almost listened to him,
Mhm.
and I was thinking to myself one night. I remember sitting there going, "You know what? That's their experience." And I'm going to come on under new rules. I'm not going to know what it was before. This is going to be my new norm. I'm going to pull the trigger and go for it. And I'm so glad that I did. Right? I'm just so glad because I had a phenomenal career. Like you talking about like informants and all that kind of stuff. And I love that stuff. It was the
Yeah.
best times on the job. Right? And yeah, I had yes, we had major tragedy in our family from the job, but also so many blessings from the job and just personal satisfaction, right? So I'm glad I didn't listen to them, but I did retire in 2014, and I started working on an A.U.Fire and all that stuff, and then about 3 years ago, uh, I have a buddy who worked at Hawthorne PD as a gang officer, and him and I used to share intel on my gang, Grape Street Crips, because they would go over there for family and stuff. And he was, running into him there. So we started sharing intel, and then we became buddies. Well, he goes and plays volleyball down at the beach on the weekends to, get rid of the, the ghetto in his head, right, from
Yeah.
working as a gang cop. And one of the guys he would play volleyball with was a really wealthy guy who lived right on the beach there. And that guy hit him up and said, "Hey, you know what? I'd like to go on a ride along." And so my buddy says, "Hey, I know just the place to go. I'm going to send you to my friends over at LAPD Southeast Division." And he ends up going on a ride along with one of my old partners in the gang unit. And he actually went on out 3 nights with this guy. And at the end of those 3 nights, his name's Mike Sunan. He was a venture capital guy, business, no experience in any of this. He goes, on this ride along, I talked to gangsters, I talked to detectives, patrol cops, victims, struggling students, straight A students, clergy members, social workers, um, activists. And he goes, what was strange is like every person had an opinion. And he goes, listening to all their opinions, frankly, from each of their perspectives, they were all right, you
Mhm.
know, but opposing each other. And he goes, man, this place is so interesting. He saw a guy get killed. He talked to a mom who told him that she put her son into a gang because she had to go work and she needed to make sure he was taken care of. right?
Yeah.
So, and he was baffled by that. And so he goes, man, I want to learn more about this neighborhood. He goes, what if I bought 20 iPhones and I went and I handed them out to people who either live or work in Watts, and just let's just see what they give us, no plan at all, right? And so my buddy tells me that this guy's got this idea. And I was like, dude, he can't do that. Like, he's going to get smoked. He can't roll around in Watts and hand out phones and try to get people to film their lives. Like, he's going to get robbed, carjacked, or killed. Like,
That's
there's,
what I was wondering. I was like, how did
yeah,
he get
right.
these guys to do it? And then they're out filming. How are they not getting killed if they're recording stuff and giving it away?
So my buddy tells me this, and I go, dude, look, man, I think it's a cool idea. And I've always been the type where I live like 8 miles from Watts, but I live down by the beach, in Torrance, Redondo Beach area. And I would always tell all the people back in my neighborhoods, like, you have no idea. Just right over there. I mean, 15 minutes away, it is polar opposite world. You guys don't have a clue. I try to educate people. And so I thought this might be a cool way to educate people. So I tell them, I said, hey, man, I'll take you down there. I'll show you around. I'll introduce you to some people and, kind of help you out, thinking this would go on for a month or something, maybe.
Hmm.
And thinking we would lose all the phones right away. So start doing that, just leveraging relationships and contacts. Ultimately, what I would do is I'd take the phone, say it's you. I go, all right, look, all right, Nathan, here, I'm going to give you a phone. And this is your story. Just go show us your life. Just film in sideways view. Anything goes. You're the director of your own story. And anything you don't want in there, you have full rights to say, nope, take that out, take that out, take that out. And I go, the plan is we'll bring these stories together and just see what we get. Like, might be interesting. And so started doing that. We went through about 200 people. Some people just couldn't do it. But it is actually very difficult, right? And
Yeah.
then we ended up with a core group of 20. So we ended up with a couple OG gangsters who were doing gang intervention and coaching at the in the projects and stuff, and some straight A students who grew up there, a pastor who used to be a gangster and is now a well-known pastor down there, um, a mom who her son was murdered and she's now a victims advocate for
Hmm.
families of murdered children, and then we got everybody, and then Mike wanted me to put my and Christina's story into it. So I was kind of working on both sides, right? I was filming and handing out the phones and recruiting people and doing all that. And so I would come take your phone after a week or two, upload it to the cloud. I had a editor in Romania who would go through and take out all the ums and ahs and all the trash footage and just take the good stuff and create a file for that week of your filming. And then we just started building that and then started editing it. We had an editing session where we brought every filmmaker to the table. And for the first time, we're seeing each other's stories from their perspective. And it just reaches in and just draws empathy out of you. And the one thing, like, it really showed, even the gangsters, they were like, put it this way, I had a gangster come up to me on the second meeting. We ended up bringing some younger gangsters in, and they're all walking in with the typical disdain. You could cut the
Yeah.
disdain with the way they look at you, right? They want to spit on the ground in front of you, basically. And after they saw everybody's cut, they came out and they had a whole different look in their eye. They're looking me in the eye and they're giving me like a legit handshake. And one guy says to me, he goes, man, I gotta tell you, I never looked at you guys like people. I
Yeah.
never even thought about it. He goes, I never even thought you guys like, I never thought about how this stuff impacts you guys at home. Like, you just police, right? You just
Yeah.
there to mess up my life. That's all I ever thought. And so, but a whole new level of respect in the eyes. I was shocked by that.
Yeah. Like I forget the name of the interview, but I was just watching it before we recorded.
Mhm.
So you're sitting there with there's two guys across the table from you. the mom right beside you. She had the yellow top on, and then the
Oh,
guy.
that was in Austin, Texas.
Yeah,
Yeah, that was in
that
Austin.
was a really good interview, and just yeah, they talk about their perspective, and I think a lot of this goes to one kind of the narratives that are out there. So what they're fed, either by their right from day one, where maybe it's parents telling them certain things.
Yep,
Police are just here to take you away. They're bad people, whatever it might be. Then you get that from the media and the politicians and all this stuff. But when you actually get down there in the communities, and I've run into this too, where I'm like, yeah, the media and the politicians can say whatever they want. I know that's not the way it is down here. Like when we actually come
yep,
into the community and talk to people, they're happy to see
yep,
us as a police
yep,
officer. They're happy to see a uniform. It's not scaring people. So
yep.
yeah, I think like the project like this, I mean, it's next level. That's how you really change minds.
You know what's incredible is uh, the what I always say is like if you don't work or live in those kinds of neighborhoods, the only way you learn about it is through the news and the movies.
Hmm.
And they both are just one sliver of the story, and they're usually pretty skewed. And with this method of people telling their stories on, this way, it's like I say, it's like a conduit of truth coming right out the middle, and it's unstoppable, it's uncontrollable,
Yeah.
and you hear it straight from the horse's mouth who's actually living in it, and you hear it from all these perspectives. And I think that's what's super valuable about it. And the thing that came out of it is everybody kind of looked at it, and we all kind of looked at each other and said, "Hey, nobody is winning here." Right?
Hmm.
Everybody is suffering here. Everybody is losing in this situation, from the gangster to the cop to the student to the victim to the teacher. And but what we can all agree on is that we all have somewhat some bit of control on making it a little better for the kids.
Yes.
Like, even the gangsters can agree on that. And that's kind of what we learned in this. And when we start bringing the gangsters to the table, and it's also the first time you've had everybody at the table. You had cops at the table, gangsters, you have victims, you have, clergy and teachers and all that kind of stuff. So everybody's representative, and everybody's kind of in this together, and everybody sees it from each other's perspective, and everybody has kind of came up with that same realization. We're all losing, but here's one thing we can control and we can do, and we can make it a little better for the kids. And these OG gangsters, like, they get burned out on that, the stress of being a gangster, and they start
Yep.
realizing, like, man, this did not pay off, and maybe I have a chance to kind of be a little bit of a better person as I'm growing up now, and I maybe I got kids. Look, there's plenty of them that are stone cold assholes that will never change, and are, the world's better off without them, no doubt, right?
Hmm.
But there are plenty that kind of looking for, like, all right, I did that, I'm done with that. I
Yeah.
want to be part of the solution, and this kind of opens the door and gives a little bit of permission for them to do that.
I think the biggest thing, and I've had this conversation tons of times on here, is just about like how do you get people out of this type of lifestyle? And I always found it's giving them that agency. So what I find a lot of them think, because it might not be true, but they think that there's no way out and that there's nothing that they can do. And I found this project. So when you give them the phone and you're like, I want you to go tell your story, it's not what the news is going to put out there. It's not how I'm going to interpret it. But by giving them the phone and letting them go and tell their own story, they can show you what is important to them,
Yep.
and even kind of like what, what it all means to them, I guess, is where I'm trying to go. Um, so I found like when we do kind of dabble in these narratives of like you're a perpetual victim. I think on there it was funny because one of the gang guys, former gang guys, I'm assuming, he was talking about like that white, what do they call it, the white savior uh, mentality that some people have, and I was like, yes, like it's just you are in control of your own life. There are things you can do to change your situation, even if it's really small. And like you were saying, everybody was trying to get to a place, but I guess they just didn't see that they had enough control in it. So they either choose not to do it at all or just not take part in it. But by giving them
Yep.
those cameras, I felt like you actually gave them a lot more say in where they wanted to go and to bring that out to people.
The other thing that I learned in that neighborhood with this project is, and I kind of knew it, but now I know it, right? For real.
Yeah.
They're so sick. That neighborhood is so sick of the typical narrative of it's nothing but violent cops versus violent gang members, and it's nothing but death and violence and destruction in this neighborhood. And that's the only story ever told about Watts. But when you work there, there are a lot of really good people, and they're just dealing with it. And the story they want to be told, and what I think we told, and why we had the first 2 years, like, man, it was an uphill battle to get trust in that neighborhood and to get
I bet.
people to do this, right? But once they realized what we were trying to do and what they started seeing some edits of it, and the word started getting around, everybody started jumping on board because we were telling the story about the resiliency of people there, right? Everybody's suffering, but everybody is doing their best to make something of it. And the community is really proud about, yeah, this is a tough, dangerous neighborhood, but it makes me tough enduring it. And I'm proud of that. And there is a community here, and we take care of each other. And they wanted that story out about their resilience and that good things come out of there and good people come out of there. And once they trusted that's what was happening, and it wasn't the same old story. Yeah, they just came rushing forward. In fact, so we had the big premiere at the Kodak or Peacock Theater in LA Live, downtown LA, 5,000 seats. It's where they have the Emmys and uh, uh, the other one I can't remember, the Grammys and all that
Oh,
stuff.
Grammys. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, that's where they hold all that at. It's beautiful theater, massive. The screen was 50 feet tall, right? So we invited Watts there. We had a couple hundred officers there as guests, in uniform, not there for security, but all of our basically our community officers came, and we had the public, and we had super wealthy people, we had movers and shakers in the city. Everybody was represented there to watch. And like I said, the movie just pulls empathy right out of you. And afterwards, everybody poured out into the lobby. And I was just talking to Tyrone and Cornelius and Sticks and guys from the neighborhood there, and they were blown away. Everybody told me it was such a mix of people who normally wouldn't be talking to each other, all engaging in conversations, and this vibe was really super cool. Everybody enjoyed it, and that we heard through from the neighborhood that some of the guys caught some heat. Some of our gangsters were catching heat. They were getting calls from prison and stuff. It got streamed all the way into prison live, right? But the general consensus was everybody was really happy with it. They were really happy that Watts was portrayed in a different way, and and there's some typical gripes, some entitlement type issues, but
Mm-hmm.
a little bit of extortion trying to happen, typical gang stuff. But
Were the people that are recording that you gave the phones to for the gang members, were all of them looking to get out? Were they able to get out of gang life, or did some still stay in it, just give you the video? Like, what was kind of the outcome with some of these people?
so the ones that are like super active right now, obviously they're not going to do it. The OGs we got are like one of them's a gang interventionist who lives in Nickerson Gardens, been in Nickerson Gardens. He used to be one of the biggest dope dealers there, and fully connected, and he's he's got enough trust and you know um, reputation that he can do what he wants to do, right?
Okay.
And he said put an end to it like 7 years ago. He's like, I'm done with this, man. I'm just going to try to help, be part of the solution. They did to start doing the gang intervention and doing some coaching. The other one, Tyrone, he's the basketball coach at Jordan Downs Housing Project, Grape Street Crips. He used to be a Grape Street Crip. That was the gang I worked. I put 444 of them on a gang injunction that I put together. And he, he had a son, and
Hmm.
same thing. He wanted something better, So his son now is a sophomore at San Francisco, and in basketball, and is a number one um, pick for the
Yeah, he was saying he was on draft boards, so
yeah.
that's really cool. Very cool.
Yeah. He's a stellar kid. Like
Yeah,
Tyrone turned out to be an amazing dad, right?
yeah.
And he didn't have a dad. And he was raised by his grandma in the projects, and the gang was his family,
Hmm.
So yeah, he caught a lot of heat, but he brought some youngsters to us for the second two meets. But what's crazy is in the movie, there was a third meeting, and the gangsters asked us, like, we had nowhere to show the movie. And they asked us, they're like, hey, can we show it in our neighborhoods?
That's
And we're
cool.
like, yeah. And they said, can we put our own meeting together? And they did. They brought in the 4 housing projects to one warehouse and watched it together, had a meeting, watched it together, and basically came up with an agreement like, we got to make this summer more chill for the kids. Like, we're the ones that can do it.
Yeah,
And so they read, and these are mortal enemies,
yeah,
right?
yeah. They got all the history, everything.
It was insane. And so in the 6 months after that meeting, in our projects, we had 0 murders. And as of today, about almost a year later, since then, they've had 1 murder in the projects, and it was an inside, like, domestic violence kind of thing.
It's crazy to think. Like you were mentioning the size of the area, and when I was listening to the other interviews, like 2 square miles, I can just you can stand on a block and you can see that far.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah, totally.
if you throw a round downrange, like you're gonna hit something, if not somebody. I just thought that's insane. 80 murders in 2 square miles. That's a lot of bullets flying. That's a lot of violence. Couldn't believe
Right
it.
before I got there, they were running 100 to 120 murders in that same area, in the
Jeez.
couple years leading up to me getting there. It's been on a steady decline since, like, like when I said 80 murders when I got there in 2001, and it was always around there, and then it started dropping. They're in the, like, 35s now.
Hmm.
But, it's dropping on a lot of places, but, um, it was horrible. It was
Man.
I mean, it's fun to work, but horrible.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. Is like you have no shortage of work as a cop, and somebody who's motivated. Yeah, you're going to be in there and getting your hands dirty. Like it's good experience. I'm wondering does this what do you call it, documentary? Do you have any more screenings planned, or is it going to get released in like a bigger format? Would it be in a movie theater type thing?
So there's a couple things going on. We're working on getting distribution. There's a couple things talking about maybe having a live concert. Now, this is an interesting piece to it. We wanted this to be so Watts centric. It's for Watts, for the people of Watts, and that's why Mike got the Peacock Theater. He said, "Look, at minimum, if this doesn't go anywhere, this is going to be a night that the people of Watts can come together and be proud. People who live there and work there come together, see this on a massive screen where the Grammys and the Emmys are shown, and
Yep.
and this is for them. Like, if anything comes of it, they got that, right. They got
Yep.
some great recognition, and a piece of history now for them. Now, I've heard about 10 cities want us to come show it. And there's some talk about, um, there's some talk of putting it mixed in with a concert, and so part of this thing, there's a guy named Stix Bailey, um, out of Watts, who's not a gangster, but he's got family in, like, every set around there. He's just grow up there, and that's just the way it is. He was able to stay neutral,
Hmm.
got into music, was tied in with Kendrick Lamar and all kinds of, big names, and he's super talented, and he's kind of like I don't know, it's sort of a unofficial mayor of Watts, right? He's very articulate, and we were trying to get him involved, and he was like, "Nope, absolutely not for the first 2 years. In fact, I will shut you guys down." He thought we were there to do the same thing everybody else was there.
Mm.
and he's super protective of Watts. And then finally, someone saw what we were doing and got it to him and said, "You have to watch this." And he did. And he called us back and he goes, "I'm sorry. I was wrong. I have to be part of this. This is incredible."
That's
So
good.
so Mike brought him in and for the music piece, and he made it all the music Watts centric. There's a lot of big names that came out of Watts. Barry White was one of them, right?
Oh, really? Okay.
And so all these artists that he's attached to, um, what he did is he took the movie and he showed them and he said, "Hey, watch this and make music based on how that makes you feel."
Mm.
And so he's got some the artist that he has on this. He's building the soundtrack. Has 83 Grammy nominations or wins within this group of artists. And I heard 5 of the songs, not even my kind of music, and I was like, "Whoa!" That knowing the layers of that neighborhood, knowing the
Hmm.
layers of what it took to make this movie, and then knowing that he took that movie and gave it to them and said, "Make something based on how this makes you feel," and then hearing the beats and the lyrics that they put together based on what they watched and that kind of shared history, it was incredible. I turned to Sticks, I was like, "Dude, I love music, but I never looked at it like art. I just thought
Yeah.
people had talent. But this is art." He goes, "Dude, this is going to be a smash
There's
album, right?"
there's meaning behind
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
And so they're talking about putting a concert together and tying it with the film, something down the road, and making that like a big streamed event. And so that's one of the ways it might go.
Very cool. Well, you know what? I think it's a good place to wrap. I want to say, man, keep it up. Like this is really cool stuff you got going on, and you know, even out of tragedy, good things can come out of that. And I think you've certainly turned a whole bunch of this stuff around, and it's helping a lot of people. So, uh, you know, all the best to you in that. I want to make sure just give you a chance to say where can people find you and your work. Obviously, you have the website for AU.FIRE, um, social media, any other websites?
Yeah, on Instagram, so you can find us at A.U.FIRE Training. And Nothing to See Here Watts is you can find that on Instagram. And yeah, my website is AUFIRE.com, which is accuracy under fire is what it stands for.
Yep.
That'd be the best place. Um, but yeah, keep an eye out for Nothing to See Here Watts. It'll hit public, next year.
Yeah.
Or we might be in your city, one of these cities. I think the next one we're going to is in Atlanta in January, and for Martin Luther King's daughter, she's going to have us
Oh,
on Martin Luther King Day at a theater there in Atlanta. So I know that's already on the books.
awesome stuff. Well, I want to say again, thank you for being on here today. Hang on line for 2 seconds. We'll say bye
Sure.
offline.
Yeah. Thank you for having me.
Hey, everyone. Thanks for listening in and following along with the discussions. Be sure to click the follow or subscribe button on your respective listening platform. Also, check out the Quiet Professional on X and Instagram under TQP780. And most importantly, please share where you can. Everyone has a part to play in getting these education and information pieces out there, so pass it along. Thanks again.